Let's get more on what's happening in the tech space, the ad space, and talk to a guy who's been rated one of the top 5 CEOs under 30. His advertising startups have made him a multimillionaire and did so by the age of 21. And his latest online company, RadiumOne, reaches 700 million unique consumers a month. Gurbaksh Chahal is a great guest, and it's going to be an interesting conversation. Just talk us through why are you in London? London is an ad centre, and that's kind of why you're here.
Yeah, well, RadiumOne has a big presence in the UK. We actually launched our European headquarters here about 18 months ago, and I've had a lot of experience, particularly in the UK and previously in another ad tech startup I started. But advertising has definitely been thriving, especially in the UK. If you just look at it from the advertising market in general, £16 billion a year, and 30% of that is digital. So, you know, the UK has embraced it. It's actually an epicenter for innovation, especially particularly in Europe. And we're definitely excited to be here for kicking off Ad Week.
Advertising has changed so much over the last decade or so. There's the famous quotes, I don't know which half of the advertising budget actually has an impact on my business. It was Wanamaker that said it. You never knew kind of what your ad spend delivered, who it hit, who it reached, what impact it was having on your business. What your business does, though, is change that.
Sure.
The ability to see what you're spending and the impact that it's having has changed dramatically.
Yeah. Well, if you look at it just particularly, I mean, display advertising has grown double-digit %. And even when, you know, in 2009, when we were facing a recession, online advertising continued to grow, mainly because, especially even in a recession market, if you're a brand or an advertiser, wouldn't you want to throw your money into a bucket where you know that it's generating customers, it's generating ROI, it's generating revenue, and the metrics that we have developed enable that to happen. I mean, you could say TV, you can say much of print kind of has lost its approach because it doesn't really provide the ROI, you know, nuts and bolts that online does.
Your history is really fascinating. You're a guy who set up a company, sold it, set up another company which kind of was an evolution, a change, sold it. You've got this other company you set up at the moment. You've kind of moved with the times. Rather than having the company change with you, you've sold the company and moved on. Well,
it necessarily never works like that. I mean, I think that if you start a company on the basis that you want to sell it, you're doing it for short-term goals, you're doing it for flipping it, and that's more by luck. And both my previous ventures were profitable companies. They were perfectly could have been public companies, and certainly the last one was on track for that. And RadiumOne, you know, is my third venture. It's already my largest of the three. But you build companies because you're doing something disruptive, you're innovating.
Once that disruption's done, you move on.
Well, not necessarily. I just end up looking at what's next and develop on that. So that's the art of entrepreneurship and innovation. And I think the thing that's actually really, really different this time around is the internet, whether it's the social world or whether it's because of social itself, it's connected everyone together. So it's no longer just saying I'm creating a Silicon Valley startup.
Yeah.
Anytime you're starting anything, it's really a global entity now, and you can take it anywhere.
I asked the question only because I'm curious as to how far through the disruption phase of what you're doing now you feel that you are.
Well, definitely in the early stages of social. I mean, Facebook's a great company in terms of embracing social and taking it and connecting 1 billion people. I think mobile's the next big thing because you got, I mean, Larry Page quoted last week 750 million Android devices, over 400 million iOS. That's 1.2 billion plus devices that have this smartphone capability. And that's the early stage of how advertising is going to be defined, in particularly in mobile.
Do you need this has always been the question about Facebook. Do you need a different company in the mobile sphere than you did in the previous incarnation of the internet? Is it a different whole set of problems, different business model?
Yeah, I mean, if you look at advertising...
Can companies transfer?
Yes and no. But advertising, for example, for it to thrive on mobile, you have to think about it differently. I mean, what you're doing on that computer has a set of targeting based on the things that you've surfed across the web.
Yeah.
You have your mobile device everywhere. So if you're in New York last week and you're in London this week, and let's say you're in Tokyo next week, all that data right there for an advertiser, I mean, especially a travel advertiser, whether it's a hotel advertiser, that's some pretty valuable demographic data. And we're in the early stages of figuring that out in mobile. And that's going to kind of revolutionize it, because you can't just think of it as a smaller banner ad on mobile. It's going to be a different experience that you can't get on the web through mobile.
Because we live in a linear world, I've got 45 seconds left.
Sure.
London's potential to be a tech hub?
It already is. I mean, I think that if you look at companies like RadiumOne, even if my previous company, Blue Lithium, if you're Silicon Valley and you want to come to Europe, you think of London first. And mainly because of advertising, it's embraced it that well. Innovation is key, and it has many similarities to the Silicon Valley culture already.